Happy spooky season, everyone, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the nightmares from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Today, I'm holed up with Andrew to my left and Kyle using an Ouija board from Chattanooga via satellite phone.
I've got a wedgie right now. And
wow.
It's really uncomfortable, so I'm going to adjust myself. You're not going to hear that, but it's happening. Just so you know.
I'm about to know that.
I'm adjusting my underwear.
I'm so glad we made it into October for our uncensored episodes.
Are you wearing pants? Or are you wearing
Chase, tell
shorts?
him what I'm wearing.
He is currently wearing just straight lingerie, women's lingerie, size medium.
Yep.
Oh, so there are no underwear.
It's a thong.
You could call it underwear.
You can call it thong underwear.
Yeah.
It's an undergarment.
It's more like dental floss.
Yeah.
It's like an assless thong, right?
G-string.
Yeah, the ass is there. Everything else is missing.
You're right.
So it's an ass full G-string.
So it's just the ass in the front is just wide open.
Yeah.
Wide open. It's almost like you just put a dishcloth on his ass.
Where's it connected to exactly?
There's a rubber band.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's just form fitted, I thought. Don't they just form fit it to your ass? Like you get a mold and then it just form fits to it? So the front, there's nothing coming across the front?
I think you got it from Tokyo Valentino, honestly.
Yeah,
so
I
we should
did,
just
actually.
go call them and ask.
Did you go to the underrooms?
I went there at Tuesday at 3 a.m, so I probably, yeah. We should hit up sometime before we leave.
We should do a live episode there.
Their little sex dungeons.
Yeah, Valentine's Day at Tokyo Valentino.
It's just a bunch of dudes walking around naked. There's no women.
Well, this episode's already off the rails.
We can pull it back in.
Could we?
I don't want to. So
It's almost like we're possessed.
Or we have epileptic psychotic disorder.
Oh, that's right. We watched Exorcism of Emily Rose. That's a famous one from our JV days, right? Like our middle school days.
I was in high school.
Yeah.
So,
You're still in high school, right? You're still trying to graduate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Kyle, we're the same age. What year was this? 2004?
2005.
2005.
2005.
Yeah,
The beginning of... No, I think it was towards the end of 2005.
I thought it was... Yeah, actually, I thought it was the beginning because horror movies are usually in like the first couple months of the years when the big ones come out. But I don't know if that's a reason.
September 9th is when it opened. 2005.
Yeah.
So
I was a freshman in high school. So Kyle, were you a freshman or sophomore?
I was a freshman in 2005. I graduated in 2009.
Were you really
When did you
a freshman?
Yeah, I graduated in 09.
I guess I was.
Yes, and that would have been freshman year.
Yeah.
I was 2005.
Beginning.
I would have just turned 12 I would have just turned 13. So
Yeah,
13
we were only 15, so it's like it's not.
What a baby!
I thought I was even younger
young.
when I first watched this, if I'm being honest. So
I did too, but
13.
We'll dive into that. But Kyle, tell us today how you're feeling in exorcism terms.
I'm at the point right now where it's like a twinge in my eye. And I know something's coming. I've already had like a few negative interactions with the closet. And it's just getting to the point now where my eye keeps on twitching. And I feel like I just hate everyone around me for no reason. I can hear them chewing from 5 rooms away. Any kind of odor that is not my own is definitely giving me some pause and some hatred. Just like sunshine pisses me off. So like I like to just kind of sit in the corner right now and stare.
So you're not speaking ancient Aramaic yet, are you?
No. This is still
beginning stages.
Early stages on set.
Okay.
This is on set possession. And a priest is entering my house at the moment. That's where we're at.
Okay, so you're doing well, it sounds like.
Yeah, things are actually going pretty well right now.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Things are going pretty well.
Way better than I was expecting.
Yeah, but we're all going to die one day, so.
That's true. Andrew, I asked you this last year. I'm going to ask you this again just because I'm curious if you changed your answer. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, shit. What did I say last year?
I'm not telling you.
Did I say candy
Oh,
corn?
I think you said Almond Joy.
No, he did say Almond Joy.
I said Smarties.
He did or did not?
You did say Smarties.
That's
did you
just
change
nostalgic.
Nostalgic for what?
I don't like chocolates. It was something that you always get. It was easy.
Smarties. Wait, hold on. Are we talking about the same treat? Like this is like it comes in a little clear Tootsie Wrap, and it's like they're little tiny like Tums discs.
Yeah, and your parents use it to clean the stove with.
They're-
Like
they have
like they
more-
put a little bit
Yeah,
of
it's like
water in it and
talcum powder.
powders up. Yeah,
They have more
Or
flavor.
Comet.
than
Yeah, it's like
that,
Comet.
but I would say maybe, I don't know. Again, I don't like chocolate here, so that takes out a lot of things. Skittles are
We would've-
great.
That's how I
Starbursts
know
are
we were.
great, but
We've been friends before another life because you would have been my best friend. I would have just given you all of my Smarties
would've.
for all of your chocolate, all your
loved-
Reese's.
I love Sprees, the chewy Sprees.
Oh, I was gonna ask you
Those
about
are
Sprees.
so fucking good.
They're I will say those slap. They go
those are
hard.
really
Honestly,
good.
I prefer those to Smarties, and I would
agree.
devour every single, because sometimes you would get like the Sprees in that little clear casing. It wasn't necessarily Sprees, but it was like a knockoff brand.
Right.
I loved those. Those were gone when I got them.
Yeah,
So,
and they were rare. You maybe got like two packs of them, and
maybe
you had
two.
to like trick or treat the whole night just to
Yep.
get those two. And those
Yep.
were the first you ate. Yep,
Yep, those were good.
that's a solid choice. Kyle, what about you? What's your favorite Halloween candy?
I think I said Snickers last year, and if I
so.
didn't, it would be Snickers this year.
That's good.
But in the event that it wasn't, I'm gonna say probably a Reese's, any kind of Reese's product. At that point, I would have been just jazzed about.
Yeah,
Did you guys have houses that would give out the full size?
yeah,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Those
That was it. Those are the ones where you're like, shit, I gotta go get me a full Three Musketeers.
The
Right.
houses with the king size candy bars, and you knew that they were in limited supply, but you knew which houses they were every year, and you had to hit them first because if you
Mhm.
didn't and you waited, you missed out.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Ruth was also a solid candy bar
Oh,
to get.
Baby Ruth. Oh, damn.
I would smash
love
a
to get
lot of
Baby
those. I would
I
just
bet
give
you
my
would.
chocolate to my sister or other friends, but I'd pick out a Three Musketeers or a Twix, and I would just take it outside and stomp on like 2 or 3 of them, throw them away.
Sounds like you have psychosis.
Epileptic
Yeah.
psychosis.
Epileptic psychosis.
I don't have control over my body.
I just made that up.
I've been self-diagnosed.
Yeah, yeah. But fuck anything that is outside the realm of reason.
But
There is no explanation.
there
and
are,
that's fun.
I want to say there are far better candies than Smarties. That was just one that you'd get a lot of. It was nostalgic, and I would eat it.
I'm
So-
gonna
I
put
get
it,
a lot of Starbursts.
I'm gonna put it back
Love
on the
Starburst.
Instagram though, because me and Kyle's reaction to that was actually dumbfounded. Like we were like, this man over here eating Smarties in his spare time. So moving on here, we're talking about the Exorcism of Emily Rose. It's based off a real story.
Yep, Annalise Michel.
Michelle.
German woman. Her life, unfortunately, ended in 1976. So quite a bit. Actually, the way this movie is set up, it seemed like it took place. No, it was more modern. It was definitely more modern. It was definitely of the early 2000s, late 90s. So.
It was that weird 2000s period where it could have been late 90s. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
definitely.
I want to
But
talk about.
there was no like time on it though, right?
No,
like
it wasn't, because when they went into the flashbacks with Emily Rose, it did seem like it could have been even earlier.
80s.
Just
Well,
by the way,
and
they
her family lived in a house that looked like it was built in 1872.
Yeah, old as shit in the middle of fucking.
In the middle of nowhere.
Looked like an Iowa cornfield.
Which, Andrew, you are our resident expert on small town America. Where do you think this movie took place, at least in the family's home?
Okay, so I thought Iowa, like Dodge City, Iowa.
I was saying Nebraska.
Could have been Nebraska too. Could have been O'Neill, Nebraska, which is 2 hours from Omaha.
Okay.
Very, very Catholic area. Very Irish Catholic area. But Iowa, well, we'll say Nebraska. Let's say Nebraska, because it hits my family roots right
There
in the
you
center
go.
point. So
There you go, everybody.
Yeah.
Andrew is Catholic, so
yeah,
that's
my mom comes from O'Neill, Nebraska,
there
Holt
you
County.
go. There you go.
Which was literally founded by a bunch of Irish immigrants back in like the late 1800s or like mid 1800s. So it works. So
Yeah.
there we are, O'Neill, Nebraska.
O'Neill, Nebraska is where this movie takes place. I want to ask you too. You both grew up Catholic, so
Mhm.
talk to me just briefly about exorcisms in the Catholic Church and what you knew about exorcisms at a young age that wasn't in like the mainstream media. Is there anything that you got from being Catholic?
I think something that people think about when they see these is that this is like common knowledge or it's talked about. Like the Catholic Church is so old. It is the oldest form of Christianity, like hands down. It's one of the oldest religions in the world as well. It's not, I mean, not as much as,
Judaism.
Islam and Judaism, but it's
no, it's
pretty
it
pretty old.
outdates Islam for sure. Because Islam
Yeah,
was
it's
300, 400 AD. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, I mean, it's incredibly old. This encompasses multiple cultures throughout time. When this stuff is going down, like it's a different time. It's a different world, and their world is not as advanced as ours. And things that existed back then that were, miracles or were this, that, or the other that the Catholic Church likes to talk about. A lot of these things might now be like attributable to some kind of science or some kind of phenomenon or some kind of, I'm not being very eloquent right now, but I don't know of like a way to say it. Like things that they thought were certain things might not have been, just because of our understanding of science now. However, there's a lot of stuff in the Catholic Church that it is not talked about because there are certain taboos around it. And there's just things you don't talk about.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that because when I was young, it wasn't something that my dad or mom like discussed with me in full. And I would ask questions. They'd be like, there's not much to say. We know that exorcisms have occurred, but it's one thing that the Catholic Church doesn't really like publicize or like
they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it at all.
I remember when I was in grade school, somebody, I don't know if it was me, this might have been a Keith story that I'm confusing for my own, but exorcism was like brought up in a religion class and they got sent to the principal's office for joking about it.
Interesting.
It's not, you don't talk, like you just don't, it's not something you talk about. It's not needed to talk about. They're pretty rare, especially nowadays.
They are very rare. But they're also stifled, like they are kept quiet if it does happen. So my grandma used to sit in on exorcisms. And
oh, wow.
She doesn't talk about it. She won't really talk about it. But I've asked her before. There are times I asked her. Now she's got dementia. She's not all there. She's aware, but like, it's just one of those things where you have to pry to get a lot of questions. But I had asked her about this like 10, 12 years ago. And she was like, I don't really want to tell you about some of the things I saw. And she's like, it's just one of those memories that I have where I served a purpose and I felt like I positively contributed at certain times, but it really does no good for me to discuss what was seen. She did tell me, she said that there were a few instances where she heard the people getting exorcised speak in different languages, which we see in this movie. I think that's like a
we
common
see it
theme,
in every movie.
but she legitimately heard that, and she didn't go into extreme detail, but she said it scared the shit out of her, basically.
Yeah, me too.
And she also said that the people being exorcised, they would say the most biting and horrific things. Like they would target you and like look at you, and it's like they were seeing right through you, and they would say something that would just make just try to piss you off. And that's all she ever told me. And she was like, I really don't want to talk about anything more. And she just left it at that. But I know she sat in on a number of them. Not a number, but probably 5 is what I'm guessing. That's more than most.
Most people don't even sit through one.
Yeah.
How old is your grandma?
She's 90. She's going to be 95 in December.
Oh, happy birthday, grandmother.
Yeah. December 11th. She'll be 95.
But that shows you like she's been alive almost 100 years.
Yes.
Years makes no difference.
Yep.
And that's 5. Like
right.
Maybe you're saying like this is not something that like is discussed for a reason, because nowadays, even when it gets to that point, they have to be able to disprove. It's not like it was back in the 1500s before the dawn of science and the scientific method. And like there's a lot of things that can't be explained that back then. Yeah, maybe nowadays though, it's not. They don't hand these out like candy on Halloween. No. There you go. But like this
Smarties.
Yeah, they don't hand them out like Smarties, folks.
And there's like a very specific process the church has to go through. I don't know the details. I'm not even. I don't even think many are privy to that. But there's a lot that they'll probably turn down. It has to check a number of boxes for them to even consider doing an exorcism.
And I want to rebound too, because the reason we talk about all this is because this original case with Annalise Michel was kind of guarded. And this was one of the first cases that got a lot of mainstream attention at the time. and it brought a lot of eyes on the Catholic Church and exorcisms and what's real, what's not.
Yeah.
We'll get into the details of this case versus the Emily Rose movie, see what's different, what's not, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after we go through this movie. But I do want to play a clip from, because like I said, this was happening in the 70s, so they had technology at this time to record some things. And we have a tape of Annalise Michel speaking in this weird tone, but I'm going to play that for everybody right now.
Ich verspreche das so, dass ich in dem Wald rein bin. Ich trag dir die Rotznase noch so lang, bis es lebt wird. Saublöde Weib. Es geht kein zurück.
So that's it. And one of the translations there, she says, "You dumbass bitch," which I find funny. But
Well, I hated that. I hated listening to that.
Kyle, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, it's definitely unsettling, but something that like I think Andrew and Chase, you'll be able to kind of speak to this living in a big city or a couple big cities. Like there are a lot of people that have mental health issues that I have heard that I've seen in Chicago that sounds like some of this sounds like that, like, which is why, and I want to be fair. I give like the skeptics credence. I understand. I get it. We can't just accept everything. There's usually an explanation, but it's the talking in different tongues that gets me.
Yeah.
I'm going to say like the demon, like what demons are you? You are this, you are this, you are this, you are this.
There's a line in this movie that I found very powerful that I really liked is the Father Moore looks at one of the characters and says, demons exist whether you believe in them or not.
Yeah.
Everyone can believe in that.
He says it to Lenny.
Yeah.
It was like one of their first encounters in the
Yeah.
jail.
When
Yeah.
she started kind of like turning a little bit of a new leaf.
She's like, I don't know what I believe, because I think he was warning her about dark forces surrounding this case or whatever. And she's like, well, she's like,
well, let's talk about some dark forces right now. What kind of numbers did this movie do?
good. I'm just gonna tell you, I was
Good.
Period.
I was
movie do good.
Movie good.
Budget was 19 million.
That's not a big budget.
Domestic opening was 30 million.
Really?
Yes, so they almost doubled it.
Did not see that coming.
Domestic altogether gross was 75. International was 70 million. Altogether, almost 146 million.
Hell yeah.
That's really good.
And it's
Really
a
fucking
rated
good.
R horror
Horror
movie.
movie.
So horror movies do not really typically do that at a box office, especially
No.
in the early 2000s. Which that was the armpit era of horror movies. That was when some of the worst
there
horror.
were some bad ones.
They were all so mediocre.
This was one of, were there many Exorcist movies in the late 90s, early 2000s? Or even the 90s?
This started more of a string of them.
Yeah, I feel like this was like the precursor to...
There's not very many total where you just kind of go through Exorcist. But I will say, if you're going to watch one Exorcist movie, you watch The Exorcist.
Yeah, watch the
original. That is heads and tails above any exorcism movie out there. Exorcist still holds up. I will tell you that now. It's a classic. It is brutal, and it still feels very violent and real. Go watch that one tonight if you got time. But obviously a success.
Yeah, big success. Made everything back and then some.
And then some.
So-
For a radar horror movie.
Yeah.
Crazy. Do we want to go ahead and just get in the blow-by-blow here? There's not really a whole lot of...
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should talk about it. Just get into it and scene by scene. It shouldn't take too long, honestly.
Yeah, because there's not very many sets to get to.
No,
There's a lot of dialogue.
It's jail, courtroom,
a bar.
her apartment, and then wherever Emily is, either on campus or at
Nebraska.
home.
O'Neill,
That's
Nebraska.
right, yeah.
Andrew, where does this movie start?
Well, you're in the middle of nowhere. Seems
O'Neill?
O'Neill. You're on a farm somewhere. It's very gray and like misty. It's dark.
Typical horror movie,
Yeah.
like set piece. And the typical early 2000s, maybe Kyle, you can agree with me here, but they all had that like blue filter on everything.
For sure. And you had like the music in the background was just someone like picking at a violin with like
Yeah.
random notes.
Kind of not a great start, if I'm being honest with you. But continue.
But there's a man who shows up to this old farmhouse, essentially. You find out he's a medical examiner, a coroner. He drove at least 20, 30 minutes to get there. For
Easily.
Sure. Yeah.
And the only reason it was 30 minutes because there was no traffic on the road.
But he walks into the home. They're all gathered. Seemingly, the family is gathered in the kitchen, very somber. You can pretty much tell someone has passed. And he walks upstairs. He goes into the room. You don't really see it. Comes back down, and he's like, well, she died of, like, what did she say, blunt force trauma? What was the cause? And there's police there. And
Well, I mean, the coroner says
I don't remember what he says, what he said, but
he's like, he couldn't confirm that she didn't die of natural causes.
that's what it was. Yeah, it
Right.
wasn't blunt force. Like, I can't confirm that she died of
It was
natural causes.
malnutrition. Yeah, malnutrition.
Yeah, and the
There was
cop was like, all right, Mr. Rose, that's the dead. I'm going to have to talk with you. And it just sets the tone for many questions to be had. And we cut away. I think don't we end up at the bar next? Is that where we're at?
Yes, that's right. Because now it's the lawyer talking to the other lawyer.
Laura
One of
Linney,
our-
who
Laura
is
Linney.
the
Good,
main
great.
character, essentially. Because this is a courtroom drama. It's an exorcist horror movie, but it is a courtroom drama on top of that. But they're in a bar. They're talking about the case.
You find out that the priest, Father Moore,
Yes.
has been charged with
Murder.
neglectful murder,
neglectful
right,
murder,
Kyle?
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Negligence.
negligent
That's
homicide.
yeah.
So he's being charged with that, and so this defender's firm is trying to take on the case. It's making a lot of national attention too.
And this firm is the firm for the archdiocese in town, and they want them to take it on. So the guy who leads the firm, Colm Fiore, is the actor.
He's been in Game of Thrones.
He's been in
a lot.
tons of stuff. He's a
He's
very
very
accomplished character actor, among other things. But he passes off the case to Linney, and she's like, "I want you to take it." She's like, "Me? Why?" And then, kind of strike a deal. He's like, "If you win this, make you partner, yada yada yada." And then that pretty much. He also states that they don't want the priest testifying. Just have him agree to a plea deal because the church does not want him testifying because it will make him look bad, which is interesting. But that just adds another layer to all of this. So yeah, she's on the case.
She acts as someone who doesn't really give a shit. She just really wants to be partner of the firm, and she's taking this case to do that. And then where do we head to next, Kyle? After she takes the case,
We go to the jail.
Yep.
See Father, what's his name?
Father Moore.
Father Moore.
Father Moore. That's right. New beginning with him. And he's already locked up.
Yep.
He's in his jumpsuit, and she goes to talk to him. And he's like, "I'm not taking a plea deal." She's trying to get him to take a plea deal so that you'll be found of a lesser charge, and you'll only spend 12 months in jail.
6
He's like,
months
"I'm not-"
if you're well behaved, which I don't think you'll have an issue doing, yada yada yada. But he's like, "No, I want to tell Emily's story."
He's like, "That's the only thing that matters to me." That right there should show you, like, how, like, he's not like, "Oh, no. I think the strategy here is I defend myself, so I have a better chance of look." It doesn't. That's not what he's talking about. He's like, "I don't care if I'm found guilty or not guilty. I care about telling her story because this is something people need to know and know how she suffered." And that's where you're kind of like, already it's like, well, this is going to be a fucking like heavy movie. It's pretty bold choice on that character's part to go for that decision that early on.
Yeah, and at that point he warns her. I think he asks her. He's like, "Are you a believer?" And she's like, "I don't know, probably agnostic." He's like, "Yeah, sounds like you're agnostic." And this is where he talks about the evil forces that are surrounding this case, and she just kind of brushes it off. And
Right. She's like, "Don't give me your hocus pocus jargon." Like,
Yeah.
But I think at that point, she realizes that this man's not going to take a plea deal, and he's going to want to testify.
And she's frustrated.
Yeah.
Because she knows she's going to have to like pull one out of her ass
She's
to
gonna
win this.
have to work some magic because the cards are not in their favor.
Not at all.
Not at all.
And then I think we start our court proceedings, right?
Well, that night she goes back to her apartment and she wakes up at 3 a.m.
right.
And that's kind of a common theme that happens.
We'll go ahead and tell
throughout.
you right now. Like, yeah. So she wakes up at 3 a.m. multiple times, and so does
a lot of Father Moore as well.
Father Moore says it too. And 3 a.m. is the witching hour. And it's the opposite of what they call the perfect hour, which is at 3 p.m.
Where Jesus supposedly
the
died on
Father, the
cross.
Son, and the Holy Spirit
But
combined. Yeah,
it's also the mocking of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But it happens frequently. She wakes up at 3 a.m. and like weird shit happens. I think the first instance, like something opened her apartment door.
yeah. It's just like weird gust of wind and.
Something malevolent, something.
Don't even know if it's malevolent. There's nothing like, I don't think anything ever like terrible happens to her. She just feels like this presence around her at all times.
I would say malevolent if we're going with the theme of the movie, but yeah.
But in reality, nothing terrible
happened to
her.
her. So
I actually hated this. I absolutely hated this part. I thought it drugged the movie and it didn't add anything to it. Because it's just, oh yeah, there's an evil spirit over the case. You could have shown that one time and been done. But
see, I disagree. I mean, watching it now, it didn't do as much for me. But when I first saw this when I was 13, it scared the absolute piss out of me. And I watched this when I was 13.
Let's talk about this real quick while we're in this conversation.
Yeah.
This movie scared a lot of kids. And
scared the fuck out of
so
me.
That's
one thing we didn't really discuss before our little blow-by-blow.
Right. So
But-
we're here now.
Yeah, I watched this at my friend's like 13th birthday party. It was like 8 boys down in his basement. His parents left us be. We stayed up to watch it in his little movie room or whatever, and it scared the fuck out of us. We stayed up together that night till 3 a.m. to make sure we could fall asleep.
Yeah. When you go to school, especially if you're in high school or junior high, and you're always going to have the kids that are like, yeah, I watched this movie, and I stayed up all night. It was kind of a challenge. And, I'll tell you this, I was too scared to watch this movie as a kid. I didn't really get into horror till later on, which is weird because now, like, that's all I even remotely watch most of the time. But as a kid, I was just flat out scared of this movie. I grew up in a religious household, so anything that was like demon related, like, was very real to me.
Yeah, same.
So I didn't want to see it. Kyle, did you see it?
No, I didn't see it as a kid. I thought I did, but I didn't. I confused it for The Last Exorcism, which are, again, just a very...
That came out like shortly after. I don't think that was many years behind. Again, a string of exorcism movies came out because of this was so successful. A lot of them suck, too. There's no point in going back to a lot of
There's
them.
a lot that are awful.
Yes. Exorcism movies are in the horror field. There's not very many good ones out there. Really, there's only one true king, and the only one worth watching. But anyway, back to where we were. So we're now at the courtroom the next day, right? So we're
Correct.
starting the case. This is where this movie shines.
Yes.
For me, is the courtroom part of this. Kyle, do you agree?
Yeah, I wouldn't say for me. I wouldn't say shines. I would say this is where the meat of the movie lies, and this is where we get into the quote unquote the good stuff, the stuff that you're like, well, is it fake or is it real? What are we doing?
Right.
And the way I would say for I understand what you're saying, Chase. I think like the writing in this area, especially in the courtroom, like it's a good courtroom drama. I don't know how realistic it is, but it seems quite realistic.
I will say this, I agree with you, but I do think it's like at the beginning it was super realistic. It kind of goes off a little bit,
Near the end.
Yeah, and it kind of like loses its touch. But at the beginning, I'm hooked because you haven't seen anything from Emily Rose. You haven't seen anything from the family. You don't know anything. You know that this man is convicted of negligent homicide. And so you're reading the courtroom and you're trying to play the role of a juror.
Yeah. And what do we learn in these first court proceedings? Because I think that's important. We got to talk about. He brings up the Dr. Griggs or whatever, who is.
You learn early on that Emily is a devout Catholic, or at least a believer.
Yeah,
they talk about her faith a lot in this. Her mom is. They talk about her mom being devout as well. Emily gets a scholarship to go to college, so she's leaving home for the first time.
Probably a Catholic university or some sort of religious institution.
In Nebraska somewhere.
In Omaha.
Probably.
We'll say Creighton.
Creighton?
Yeah, we'll say Creighton.
So she's going to Creighton.
Yeah.
It does look like a Creighton campus.
Honestly, Creighton's a little more attractive than that. If I'm being
so
real. But
she gets a full ride to Creighton University. church. And like they even talk about in the first courtroom proceedings that, she met a boy,
Jason,
that she went to a dance, and that she didn't tell her mom this because her mom would just be upset if she went dancing.
Yeah, and this is one thing that I didn't love, because with a lot of movies and like TV shows, they bleed the line with Catholicism and like evangelism. Not many Catholics are gonna like hate the fact that you're drinking or singing and dancing.
Right.
Catholics love to have fun. They just do.
But they
so.
never did confirm that the family was Catholic. I'm assuming they are because they're getting an exorcism.
It was because Father Moore was their parish priest. Yeah. So they're definitely Catholic. So that's where I'm like, okay, I get the devoutness, but you can be a devout Catholic and want to have a wild time.
I get,
you know, but. Yeah, as you were saying, she's finding her way at this new school, branching out.
She's out in the open world.
Yeah, she's excited about it. And do we want to go into like the very first scene or the very
first doctor?
Happening?
Yeah, so we're getting a doctor.
Yeah,
the first doctor is giving his witness testimony. And he's a doctor that treated Emily for this incident.
Yeah.
And the movie goes from courtroom drama to horror movie.
Flashback.
And then the horror movie is in flashback terms. And there's a flashback of Emily in her apartment. And it's like, I guess it is 3 a.m.
Dorm.
Yeah,
she wakes up at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
She's by herself. Her roommate has left for the weekend, and she wakes up and she smells something burning.
Like sulfur.
Yeah, but she also like something could be on fire.
Right.
So she walks out. And it's a very classic-looking, like, college dormitory, very old, outdated. There's a bunch of, like, red lights from, like, the exit signs. The mood is set.
It's a very cliched horror scene.
Very cliched. And,
something chases her.
Yeah, the door is, like, swinging open at the end of the hallway. She goes and shuts it, You see the smoke alarm that she notices. It's not going off as she walks back. And then she heads back into her dorm, and then when she steps in, the door kind of slams behind her. She shuts it, but it slams, and she kind of looks back. It's like, what was that? Was that me? And then this is when she gets in bed, and then something like attacks her, essentially.
Yeah.
Like gets on top of her, like shakes her bed, pulls her sheets off, and then like suffocates her. It's like it's sitting on top of her, like choking her.
Right.
And it was unsettling. It's very cliche, and I didn't remember it being so cliche. But it is. It's standard exorcism. Like, this is the moment of demonic possession.
You're going to have a scene of this in every Exorcist movie.
The bed gets, like, folded in half with her still on it. She can't. She's, like, in a rigor mortis state. She can't move.
Sleep paralysis, basically.
Yes.
So,
which is a very
Which
common
would also
thing.
be something that they could use in the courtroom, but they never talk about.
Never talk about it.
Yeah, so it's like that would be a lot easier to explain.
Yeah.
So between that and her, there's two different flashbacks, and there's another flashback of her in this moment running out into the streets to a payphone to call her aunt, right?
Yeah.
Was it her aunt?
It was her aunt or grandmother or something
someone
like that.
Great
aunt, yeah.
telling them what she had experienced. So she goes to a hospital.
Yeah.
And then this is where they cut to the witness testimony of the first doctor that she sees.
Yeah.
And Andrew, can you talk a little bit about that doctor and what he talks about?
I mean, he said that he thinks that she had like epilepsy, and in those moments of epilepsy, she would lose like complete control or like black out. So essentially, what she described can't be taken as fact because she has no control of her body and shouldn't have a real memory. So there you go. There's your logical explanation as to what she, quote, experienced.
Right. And I will say this, too, during the case, like Kyle, you may agree with me here. The defense is getting its ass kicked most of this movie in the courtroom part of it, at least with the first round of doctors. Because they question this doctor. He kind of goes through his statements, and she's trying to say you weren't sure it was epilepsy. You gave her this medicine. You never
Gambutrol.
Yeah, Gambutrol.
That's a big one.
You don't know she had epilepsy. So if you gave her that medicine, wouldn't that also hurt her? And he was like, well, it could. So she was like, so she was like, so you never fully diagnosed her with epilepsy. You just thought that that's what she had. And that's kind of what the case the defense is building, because they're building that this girl had this specific disease, but they never confirmed that they had the disease. So that's kind of the back and forth that we have for a while. And then we have this other psychologist doctor.
Yeah, I think he was either he was from like Northwestern or like the demonologist.
Creighton.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, sure, whatever. Maybe he was Johns Hopkins. I don't know. He was well established.
He had 2 papers published by John Hopkins.
Yeah, that's what it was. But he was like, yeah, I looked at the findings. I looked at the papers. I believe that she had something called epileptic psychosis or psychotic disorder. And
Yes.
the epilepsy led to psychosis. The amount of seizures that she supposedly had over and over led to her brain just kind of getting off track and going haywire. And he was like, if she had taken the drug Gambutrol for the extended amount of time, she wouldn't have died. But hey, Father Moore told her to step off it and stop taking it. So that's what contributed to her death, and that's why she died.
And it's a very powerful testimony. You're like, oh, they're dead in the water now. Like, there's no way this defense is going to recover from this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically now you have 2 doctors saying, hey, she probably had this. We never confirmed it. And there's one line, too, where the defense attorney's like,
She's like, is this a common?
yeah, would you tie her down and give this to her? And he's like, yes, I would. He's like, you would do this against her will? And he's like, if it meant to save her life, absolutely. And it just turns the defense on their head.
And then she tries to get into this epileptic psychotic disorder, though. She eventually, she's like, how many people, is this rare? And he goes like, extremely rare. And she's like, how many people have you seen? He's like maybe like 5 or 7. And she's like, is this an official like illness? Is this real? And he's like, well, I took some liberties. And she was like, so you coined the term yourself. And so she's like, so is this an actual disorder? And again, it kind of leaves to the gray, but like the fact that, he had talked about Gambutrol and how she was taken off of that's contributed to her death. It's not much of an argument at this point. It's just not. So, yeah. The
they
defense,
do a really good.
Go ahead.
They do a really good. No, the defense does a really good job of denying the prosecution's like accountability or credibility, and that's why I think this is a really good. It's just a good courtroom drama. It's just like she's really good. She's a really good lawyer.
I don't know. Should we just jump around? There's not really any kind of like timeline here because it's all.
No, they're just going back and forth between different instances that people had of like anecdotal experiences with her in that state and her before that state, and
they
and
interview
what
the
happened.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a very not fun situation with her
Yeah.
where she like convulsed and was doing weird shit.
And there's scenes where she's walking around campus, right, and she's freaking out, and she's looking at people, and their faces are melting.
Or taking the
And
face
it's-
of like a demon's face or something.
Oh
like
my
that.
god! And it's the CG in this is so bad. It's early 2000 CG, so it wasn't going to age well anyway. But the face melting scenes,
I didn't hate that. The one thing that I did hate was when she was sitting in the classroom and like the fog
guy's
from
face.
outside. No, that didn't. But it was the fog on the outside that kind of formed looked like a demonic impression. I was like, that looks a little hokey. The melting of the faces did not bother
it
me.
was so hokey to me. That was way worse than the fog. But I guess I was just accepting like early 2000s. Here we go, and then I noticed the fog.
I mean, it didn't look that great, but it wasn't something that I was like,
Practical
oh,
kids.
ew.
If you're going to do an effect,
Oh.
do it in camera because you always risk this happening later on.
But this also like dives into the, her hearing all these noises and the clinking of silverware and people chewing and her just losing her fucking mind. And then it ends with her going into a church and he follows her in there and she's like staring up at the crucifix over the altar or whatever. And then she starts to like bend her body
Her back just snaps.
like in half, almost like 90 degrees. And
you hear the snap, so
You hear it.
she should have some sort of injury, some sort of like slip disc at least, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, but if she's on adrenaline, you can do fucking anything.
whatever. And she looks at him and like tilts her head and she like says in this weird voice like, don't look at me or don't touch me, and then collapses and he goes to her aid. But I will say the physical acting that Jennifer Carpenter did for this was
Jennifer Carpenter was very good in this.
phenomenal.
Yeah, very good.
This was one of her first bigger roles, I believe.
Yeah.
Also, Louisville native, shout out. She went to Gretchen's high school.
Nice. I love that. I love that for you.
She's very talented, though, and she did a really good job with this. She had to contort her body and really put herself in situations that probably weren't necessarily comfortable.
Yeah, she did a great job. And then there's other scenes, too. There's one where she goes and stays with a family.
Well, that's when she just goes back.
Yeah.
They send her back. That's that point, you know.
She can't stay in school.
She can't stay in school. She's not well.
So she goes back, and then I think one of the daughters ends up catching her.
She's just up in her room, like jumping around, like scratching the walls.
She's doing, and the jump is actually the one scene that I was like, that's pretty terrifying to me, or at least I really thought that was very unsettling. But they all the exorcist part, like all the demonic stuff, is so quick. They don't keep it in camera very long. It is very quick cut. They don't let anything build. And so there's no tension in these scenes. Like I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now.
It did happen too fast. I agree with you.
So she's looking at faces. They
watch.
melt in like a frame or two, and then she runs away. So it's just designed to give you like a couple of jump scares here and there. They just don't give it time to breathe.
We get tension towards the end when things build.
The exorcism part.
Yeah.
So we build up.
We're not there yet, but. Is there anyone else that we need to mention in cross-examination that's worthwhile?
No, you get because they interview the same people multiple times too.
They do, but they also had the spiritual doctor, the Dr. Adani.
Yeah.
I don't exactly. Kyle, what was her title exactly?
She worked at Yale and Cambridge, and she was some kind of like supernatural. Like, I don't think it had that name. It was a much more official title, where basically she studies the intersection between science and the supernatural.
Yeah.
And what that means. And like she did studies on people that were quote unquote possessed, and like what areas of the brain they were activating, and like it was like very scientific, but you could tell that like the prosecutor was very upset that she was in there. She's like, why are we bringing friggin' monkey bones and like read our fortunes with that? And the judge was like, can you
shut the fuck up?
So I want to talk about that too real quick, Kyle, because I think me and you are going to go on the same page with that. That guy starts off as a good like kind of prick prosecutor, you know, and then he kind of goes off the rails and starts just becoming an asshole,
condescending
He's
fuckhole.
Absolutely like a prick.
Right.
It probably didn't help his case either with
I
the
don't
way
know
he
if
was
it's-
so condescending, but Kyle,
I think I would believe that he would not like just inadvertently like self implode, because he could tell that he was like at the beginning. You remember what they said about him at the beginning? They were like, he's like a no nonsense Christian. Like he teaches Sunday school and he's at that church 24/7. So we need him for our credibility. So it's when he at the beginning when he's like you're church going, man, and he's like yes, and he's like me too. You're just trying to give yourself. He came across phony, and you could tell near the end that like he was just a Sunday Christian. For me, it really was like, okay, yeah, you're an asshole though. You're a prick, and I do believe that like when we're talking about things like faith and people, like what people can process as rational and real, makes them very like it makes it very incendiary when you talk about these. And there's a lot of emotions that fly around. And he's a lawyer, so he's trained to funnel those emotions into very, like, you know...
calculated words.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So I do believe that, but I also think that that's, like, why they won the case, though. One of the reasons is because they lost their credibility with the jury. And, like, it was like, yeah, we believe that she died because of them, but, you know, well, I don't want to spoil the end, but there's more to it than that.
Right.
And he doesn't realize that.
And then there's... one other thing too because they have a medical doctor that was overseeing the exorcism the whole time,
Cartwright.
And he's supposed to testify in court.
We find out about him late because Moore didn't want to bring him into the quote dark
the
cloud,
fold,
but
yeah.
He spoke up, and he's supposed to testify to the court. He gives.
He's supposed to testify basically, hey, like I
was witnessing this.
Yes, she's not epileptic. She didn't have psychosis.
She was conscious. In and out, and when she was conscious,
which is still psychosis,
she was still very aware that there was another side to her, which he said something to the effect of like people who are psychotic wouldn't necessarily admit to.
He said people who are crazy don't think they're crazy.
Exactly.
She says, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very true thing.
Right, and
He also has the tapes from the
and
Exorcism,
he has the tapes,
and he gives them to Lenny.
Right, and he does that later on in the case, so it's not evidence that they knew that they had because
Yeah.
he was trying to hide it. Well, anyway, why can't he end up testifying, Andrew? I
he
know
gets-
we're kind of jumping a little bit ahead, but we might as well
he's
just say
right
it.
there. He gets hit by a car, just out of the
Yeah.
blue.
I laughed.
He's talking to her. He's like, I can't do it, but tell him I believe in him and I wish him the best of luck. And he
Yes.
sees something over her shoulder.
And
he
you could tell.
like freaks out, backs up into a car that was going like 30 miles an hour
In a parking lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just goes right through the windshield, and I was like, ooh, that's a couple of broken legs, and like, he's dead. And I was like,
When that whole situation happened, when he first came on and he said, like, I was like, oh, the silver bullet, oh, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
I
I was
laughed
like, there's no way.
so hard when they said he was dead. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it matched anything.
I didn't.
I agree.
I
do
didn't
agree with
like
that.
it, and the way that they showed his body go through the front windshield. I was like, I mean, I get killing him off, but you could have been a little more creative.
You could have hit him with a
it.
bus.
It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be the Omen, but like,
Or
it
it
needs to be
could have
something.
been something at 3 a.m. and like he died of like carbon monoxide poisoning
Or
or
they
something
find,
like that.
or you don't even have to like explain it. You can just say we found him dead in his apartment.
Correct.
Like, yeah.
That would even be.
Yeah.
I think that would even be more, like less explanation, the better.
have
And like,
have
just let it
him
be open ended.
and have him run away, and then she doesn't see him again, and then she tries to call him, he doesn't answer, and then you have a police officer asking her questions.
Yeah.
But they're trying to do it quick and try not to open any more cases.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, they need to be succinct because they don't want to lose us because it's not an action packed movie until like near the end, and the ending of this is pretty brutal. Like it's not fun.
Yeah. So and we're there
We're
pretty
there.
much. So
We're
like
there 'cause she-
so in this whole court case, so we're going back and forth, and we're just telling the people in the audience like there's not a whole lot of blow by blow here because it's two settings basically at this point
It's
in the
essentially
movie.
courtroom and flashbacks
and
with a
it's-
few scenes.
It's a 2-hour
outside.
movie. Yeah, 2-hour movie, a lot of dialogue. So now they're talking about the exorcism that they're performing on Emily Rose.
Because now Father Moore is taking the witness stand, even
Taking-
though they were told not to have him testify. She gives in because what else is she gonna do? Dr. Cartwright's dead. He's got to take the stand. So this is where we get the blow by blow of the exorcism, and of course it happens on Halloween, All Hallows Eve.
Lost me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, well, the spirits are extra, or not the he didn't say spirits, but like there's extra
so
supernatural activity.
hokey.
A little hokey,
I was like,
like,
give me a
yeah.
break. You didn't have to put that in there.
but it happens. I think it starts off in her bedroom. They tie her down, and it just kind of goes haywire. She breaks free from her tie down.
Her restraints.
Her
Yeah.
restraints. She smacks her father. She's
Smacks the
speaking
shit out of him with a
him.
bear or
Yeah.
something like.
I thought it was something more of a blunt object, but she
No,
hit
it
some
was like
square in his cheek.
I think it was like a bear he had for her.
like
or
a
something.
it was like part plastic.
Yeah,
though.
something like, and then he gets like absolutely just whiplashed into the corner.
She has some like weird line. She's, oh, you think dolls and crosses are going to help your little girl or something like that. And this is the point where it's a different, character, I guess, that's
Yeah.
overtaken her.
And she escapes. She jumps out the window.
Jumps out the
Yeah.
window and runs into
Goes to that
the,
Nebraska barn house out
yeah.
there in the.
But before that happens, Father Moore asks, "Who are you, demon? Reveal yourself." And all she keeps saying is, "I'm the one who dwells within." 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. She keeps saying that over and over.
No,
again.
she doesn't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
5,
6.
6. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not
Yeah.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Playing with the 6.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then, and then she says different. She says different phrases that refer to Satan.
Yes.
Too. So she's trying to allude to that she is Lucifer,
Yeah.
and I think she says that. At
She
one
does at the end, but they're in the barn when this is happening, and the animals are going crazy. The horse is getting let out because they can't. It's pouring rain. There's thunder. There's snakes that show up randomly. Like there's a whole bunch of shit.
And after her dad got smacked with the bear, a horse just absolutely
kicks him
super
in the
kicks
face,
him in
and
the
he
face.
gets knocked out.
I laughed again. I am so sorry, guys. I laughed at that scene again because I was like, that poor man. He's gonna have psychosis when this is over.
We
But
did.
The exorcism fails.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess we can just say that. This is a long scene too. This exorcism is a long scene. It's it's the longest of the scenes with the supernatural elements in it. But now we get back to it. We're getting through the finale here with Father Moore's testimony and the back and forth.
He has one more day of testimony, if we want to be specific about it, because I think after they discuss the exorcism in total, they get the cross-examination, the examination, essentially the prosecutor's like, this is bullshit, whatever. He says a bunch of condescending shit. We don't have to be specific about it, but it cuts away to Lenny in her lawyer's office, and her head boss is like, don't put him back on the fucking podium tomorrow or you're fired. And that's exactly what he does.
Right, because like it goes
exactly what she does. I should say.
It goes south, right? Like, but at this time, she's starting to come around and starting to become like
kind of
somewhat of a believer.
Yeah, she knows. She feels that there is something more to,
and she believes in Father Moore.
Yeah,
like she actually thinks he's a really good man, and
she doesn't see how there's any way that he could have killed her.
Because their conversations, he's talking about Emily a lot and how much he like respected her and loved her and thought she was like a great ambassador of God.
Yeah.
And I think at one point they talk about she knew that her possession had a purpose.
This was the second day of testimony from Father Moore. He had a letter that Emily wrote him the morning after the exorcism, apparently. She had this vision or experience where she woke up and left her body and went and spoke to the Virgin Mary, essentially.
Yeah.
Out in her family's field, the farm field or whatever. And Mary told her, it was like, the demons aren't going to leave. We can't stop them. Something of the sort. You can either come with me or you can go back, but just know you'll suffer. And she was like, I'm not going to leave. I want people to know that this is real. So I'm going to go back to my humanly body and endure it. And that was it. She went back, and then she died shortly after that.
Shortly after, yeah. And Father Moore read that note. He's crying as he's reading it.
Yeah.
Into the court, which is they're showing you around to the court, and people are starting to really take that to heart. And that kind of pretty much wraps up the court proceedings there.
Yeah.
And now we get to the verdict. And Kyle, what's the verdict?
I want to say something real quickly. I know that we hated the prosecuting attorney. He became a complete condescending prick, but I thought his final words were actually pretty succinct for someone in his position. I was like, all right, that's some good acting. That's some decent writing there.
He's great acting.
I mean, you can be being a prick as a lawyer is not like off the realm of possibility.
Not at all.
Especially a prosecutor.
No. But his final words, and Lenny's words were excellent. Is it possible? I don't know. But is it possible? But Kyle, take it away. We have the final words from the lawyers.
So, yeah, we got the final words in. Kyle, what was the verdict handed down by the jury?
So it was a guilty on the account of negligent homicide. So not a great outcome, it would seem.
No, she lost the case. You know, at the end of the day, they lost.
However, she goes, remember he wanted to get sentenced right away, so we're just going to do expedite the sentencing. And the judge is like, did the prosecution have are you guys cool with that? And he's like, I don't see why not. We won. So then they go to the jury, and the jury goes, we recommend a sentence of time served. So he's not acquitted, but
no, he's going to be guilty of that felony.
But they think that what he's already endured from the testimonies and how much they believe people, that the time is served. Your hell you already went through, and also technically you are guilty of this crime, but we don't feel like you being guilty of that is a fair sentence, so this is what we're going to do. But they can't say he's not guilty, because he is. They didn't remove her and take her to a hospital. They didn't try to get her fed. They didn't. And but she wouldn't let that happen, even if they tried to, and that wasn't her wishes. So technically, yes, you did let her die like this, but because she wanted people to know about it, and that's essentially her way of saying, no, fuck this, I'm going to go out on my own accord, they were like, okay, well, time is already served.
Right. It was a good ending. It ends with Father Moore and the lawyer putting flowers on Emily Rose's grave, And it kind of wraps up there. He doesn't get away scot-free. He is guilty.
And he's got to live with the darkness that he endured for the rest
Right.
of his
He even
life.
says he's not going back to the parish. He's doing his own thing now. So it has deeply affected him.
And Laura Linney didn't become a full-blown converted Christian.
She turned down the partnership.
She turned the partnership, and she didn't convert to Christianity. It wasn't like, I'm a believer now. They didn't get that hokey with it.
Yeah.
I think he asked her at the end, he's like, do you any changes in your beliefs? And she's like, I don't really know. I'm a bit affected, but
it was a great ending. It was a very realistic and grounded ending for the entire movie, which that pretty much wraps it up. I know it sounds like we were kind of all over the place, but there's not a whole lot to talk about here. It's more of a movie that if you really want the details, you're going to have to watch it. Yeah.
Just watch it.
Kyle, you have a lot to say about this one, don't you?
Yeah. But it's not about necessarily the movie. It's going to get into other stuff. I think this movie needs to be seen for more than what it is. I don't think this is a scary movie because of the jump scares or the visuals or lack thereof. I think that this is like a very good movie that makes you think. It makes you think a lot. Mm-hmm. It made me think a lot to the point where I paused it a couple of times and I was like, I just want to get this out here.
It really does question your morality and what you feel is right and wrong in this scenario, because this is a lot of gray area.
But also, like, even more so, I think it gets to the point of, like, the bigger issue, which is science versus faith. And there is a gray area between the two. And that's very frightening to think about, that there are things happening that we cannot describe. And I think that one area this movie does really well is it really gives credence to the skeptical explanation versus the faith-based. But I'm just saying, like, there are things that happen that we don't know the answer to, but the answer, this is where it becomes like a moral dilemma outside of the movie, is like, you want to have scrutiny and be skeptical of certain things. Right? Like, we have to be. But at what point does that become just an automatic deferral to science? And whatever science has to say is the ruler, when we know that science has, for many different instances, been proven, it's proven itself wrong. And science in and of itself led to discoveries that we thought had a scientific explanation for that really we don't. And to me, it's just very interesting that if science can't explain it, well, nothing can. Definitely not what you're saying. It can't be an exorcism, because that's just hilarious. That's not real. You can't see God, so God doesn't exist. And I think that's just really lazy. I think it's a very lazy way of going about explaining things that happen in the world. I'm saying very few things should probably ever be attributed to what we're talking about here and the possibility of that happening. However, the very few things that do exist that we don't have explanations for, yeah, it's pretty...
Like how the Browns can never make the playoffs.
There you go.
I'm sure that's where Kyle was going with that.
I don't know. It makes me pause for a lot of the things in this movie and think, what would I do if I was on that jury?
Yeah.
How would I attribute this to happen? Because there are certain times where you're like, well, yeah, she knew all those languages, and certainly she can definitely speak those languages, right? Yeah, no, not subjectively, not like with a subject in mind. Could she do that?
Probably not fluently at all those languages too. She probably knows some of each language, but you can't be.
But not enough to talk about, like, to talk conversationally in them. I think that's lazy. I think it's a lazy argument that, like, and give me the examples of why, you know what I mean? Like, of where that has not been the case. Because somebody had, like, a head injury, or because they had some kind of, like, an unintentional lobotomy, or that stuff can happen. But I've met people like that. That's not what's happening. There's other things going on, but it's not that.
People are terrified of things they can't explain, so they have to rationalize it. You know?
For sure.
We're infantile in the grand scheme of things. So, like, not being able to have explanations, it's like our brains like short circuit and like freak out. So
Yeah.
again, people are
What I'm-
afraid of the things they can't explain.
That's what I'm trying to get at, and that kind of proves my point, is science is just as myopic as faith is. And there's oftentimes in me, they become indistinguishable from one another in how closed off they can be to anything other
Sure.
than their own echoes. Like,
I agree with you 100% on that. I think that is a very good point and very valid.
It's a very deep point that I'm sure most people probably wouldn't think about necessarily from watching this, but it's one that lingered with me. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I think that is, I wouldn't say that's the crux of the movie, but I guarantee you the writers of this had that in mind when they created it. I know
Yeah,
they did.
absolutely.
it's definitely the thing about this movie that I think, like Chase says, like the courtroom scenes shine. I think because the courtroom scenes do their job, it helps movies shine in this sense, where it's more of, this is more of a moral movie.
Yeah.
Like this is more about what do you think? What do you think? What would you do if you were on the jury?
Right.
You were hearing this kind of stuff, and you're hearing demonic forces, but then you're seeing how this person died, but then you're hearing these anecdotes from people that were there that otherwise you'd be like, oh, like, you're a reputable person. Of course I'd believe this happened. And then not being able to explain that, I think, is the area where science does not help. Like, there's no, it's like, okay, yeah, that's not what it is. There's no help to try to figure out what it might be. Much like, I know this is going to not sound right, but much like the Mythbusters would try to figure out a way to make the myth work, they're not doing that. And I don't think this is a Mythbuster situation where they're going to find, like, this is the hoax behind it. But I'm like,
they didn't give it any credence, is what you're saying. They didn't even try to.
Correct.
So.
No, and that's what I find, like, most of the media surrounding this kind of stuff, it gets over sensationalized on both sides, but the onus falls on the faith side, because faith doesn't power our cars.
No.
And that's where I think this gets, like, are we missing things as a society in getting lost in the technology of everything and the disconnect from human nature at this point, that we're missing things like this?
Well, we miss.
We're so afraid of it.
And I want to add on, like, we also think if we believe in science, we can't have faith, and if we believe in faith, we can't believe in science.
But
and
I think
they both have to
tandem.
They both have to work together for a modern society.
Yeah.
But it's real, though. I know so many people that draw that line in the sand, that, like, are big into their faith and will drop a lot of science, and then vice versa. A lot of people are big into science and draw a line on faith.
Get lost in a rabbit hole with Reddit atheists, and you'll find plenty of those people.
Yeah,
God.
I'm sure
They're just as insufferable as the people who are like, I'm not going to listen to about global warming. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they're the exact opposite.
Yeah, and it's just, and at the end of the day, it's not helping. Either way is not helping anyone.
No.
Kyle, I really love your point, and I agree with you, and I want to add on to it. So, with me in this movie, I almost wish that you could cut all the horror scenes out of it.
I don't disagree.
I think the horror scenes in this ruin this movie for me, and I'll kind of explain why. So, for me, the courtroom was the best part. It was the most intriguing, and I agree with you. They offer so many moral debates in this. What I don't like is they persuade the audience with the horror scenes. So as an audience, we side with Father Moore and the defender because we see it actually happening to Emily. We don't get any, like, neutral ground on that. And I would have loved if they were going to do the horror scenes in this movie, when the prosecutor comes up, you show Emily with, like, psychosis or something more provable. So you, as an audience member, has to come up with your own reasoning or what you believe actually happened to this girl. They kind of feed it to you. This is what happened. Prosecutor's an asshole. We don't believe them. How can they not believe Emily? When in reality, not showing all the horror and showing Emily going through this, you would be like, well, I don't know. Did it actually happen or did it not? And you would have more of an interesting film there. Just make it a courtroom drama. And the horror elements in this movie absolutely sucked, in my opinion. I know, Andrew, you had a few things you liked. But for
It wasn't as much as I maybe let on. I will say that my overwhelming take from watching it last night was, wow, that was not very scary. But in the exorcism at the end, the camera's shaking.
You can't
see anything.
And it keeps cutting to the horses.
It was just a little superficial.
Yeah.
A little cliche at times.
It was almost like the horror parts of this were to get back to the courtroom.
Yeah.
So cut them.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I don't disagree with you guys on how it was shot, because that's what's being talked about now is like the shots were not done right. There wasn't enough time spent in the editing suite, like on this moment here, that needed more time to flesh out and see it. Like, I don't disagree with you on that, but taking the horror scenes out, and to your point further, Chase, I think the movie is more effective, in my opinion, because it is. This is how I interpret it, and I'm only telling you this because this is how I watched it. Which as soon as we started seeing those flashbacks and stuff, we were in the courtroom. So the story being told and how it's shot, I think the best creative choice here is which is what they did, to show what is happening from one point of view. Mm-hmm. And that point of view is the neutral point of view.
Right.
And it might not but here's the thing. But here's the thing, though. We're not seeing like crosses on her body. We're not seeing like anything like out of the ordinary that could be attributed to if she had severe psychosis with a bout of epilepsy, and like her trying to bite at the wall and like slashing things, and like that is all stuff that I'm like, okay, when I'm watching these scenes, I'm thinking, could this be what the skeptics say it is, or is this a legitimate possession? And there were numerous times where I was like, well, it could probably not be it could not be a possession. It could definitely be that. And that was the majority of it.
Yeah.
Until we got near the end. And then it was much more like
paint by numbers kind of exorcism. And they do the things where she's bending her bones and she's bending her back in these like anatomical ways that aren't going to be possible for you to bend even with adrenaline or in psychosis. You can hurt yourself, but when you come out of the psychosis, you will have a broken arm if you bend your arm in a certain way. It's just that's the way it's going to work. So they do a little too much of that, and then they talk about trying to explain naturally that there's two vocal cords in the human body, and you can inflict the upper vocal cords. But I was like, she's not a trained monk.
No,
she's not.
Yeah, that was what I started getting so pissed off. That's when I started getting really upset, because I was like, so you're saying she looked up in her free time before the internet was really that big how to Mongolian throat sing? You going to tell me that right now?
And Kyle, I agree with you 100%. I would have loved a movie where if you're going to the courtroom and you're going to do the flashback, show when the priest is up there, show the horror scenes. But if you're going to do that, show that same scene in more of a natural way, according to the prosecutor. Because let's not forget, this is a horror movie. That's what this is. This is advertised as a horror movie. It's a genre movie as a horror movie, and it's not. There's nothing, in the horror elements. There's nothing that really rocks me there. It's more thought provoking courtroom drama, which it's in the courtroom drama part of it. It's good. It's solid, and I wanted that to be the whole thing because, like you said, Kyle, it adds a lot of like, well, what if? How do I see this movie? How do I think about this situation?
So I probably overthought this last night when I was watching it, but like the whole point of view thing, whose point of view is it? Is it like, it seems like they're spoon feeding us the defense's narrative that it is an actual possession, but there is only one point of view for everything. We have our own realities of it, but if a leaf falls on the grass, it falls. You might have a different, understanding of which direction it fell in or how fast it did, but it still did that. The action is still there. Like the leaf still fell in the exact same way that it fell. So I see that like the only entity that would have that point of view is the all-knowing, is the omnipotent, the omniscient, and that's God. That's the only person that would have, or not person, but entity that would have that ability to look at something so thoroughly without judgment to then make judgment. Because that's the only way you could do it. So I don't think, to your credit, Chase, I don't think they were thinking about that when they made the shot list and edited this movie.
Yeah.
However, that's how I was seeing it, and I was like, oh, at the end of the day, if something like that happens, that's still what happens. That it's very like if a tree falls in the forest, no one is around to hear it. Does it actually make a sound? Like,
Right.
yeah, but is it all about perception? You know, I don't know, but like here we are having a conversation about with this movie and its implications, and I think I'm getting to the point. I'm very interested to see how we score this one.
Andrew, I'm going to give you the floor a little bit. I know we're all over the place, me and Kyle, but I want you to be able to tell us your thoughts on this one.
So,
And somebody who watched it as a kid, too.
growing up in a Catholic household, this one always hit harder just because it really plays. Obviously, it's an exorcism movie. Exorcism movies and like demons and evil spirits are scary to think about, but because it had such a religious component to it, it hit even harder because growing up in a religious household, religion is important. That is the world that's created. That is what you're brought into.
My mom, if she's listening, which she's not, if she was listening, demons were something she would not watch on TV or in movies.
Yeah, and I don't seek that stuff out. But like the religious, like what's the word you use, Kyle? We were talking about the stained glass. How did you describe that? The black tears. There was a specific phrase.
A mold or
no, like the obfuscation of religious entities. What was that? How did you describe it?
I don't remember. You'd have to go back. It's lost.
I mean, it's the desecration of something sacred and holy.
The whole unholy inversion.
Holy inversion. I think
divine inversion.
Yeah, I think that is something that rankles me deep and really scares me. And I was disappointed that we didn't see enough of that when I watched. This is more of a shallow observation compared to what you two dove into a second ago. But I don't know, some of those moments, such as the cloaked hooded figure, the melting stained glass, the languages and her evil references when she was possessed. That's the stuff that I wanted to see more of or be exposed to, as opposed to the melting faces or the contorting bodies or the folding beds, that kind of thing. That's what got me. And there was enough of that it drove home the point. But as I was saying, like, when I was younger and growing up Catholic, to have something in media form that kind of tests that or presents a different, darker side, like that to me is terrifying and horrifying. And that's one of the reasons that this always bothered me, because I think it was mainly one of the first evil exorcist entity type movies that I had ever seen. So it stuck with me. It lasted. It was like an indelible mark that I never got rid of. I don't know. It's one that hits my Catholic religious upbringing and foundation to the core. And I do find it a little bit more realistic than many of the modern exorcist movies that we have seen. And then just the fact that you have the logical dissertations of what did we just see? How do we dissect this? How do we rationalize that? Right. I didn't appreciate that as a kid, but as I watch it in my older age, I think that is something that is important. And I'm trying to figure out how to properly say this. It's the bow, it's the ribbon on top. It's everything that ties it together. It makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, I'm with you on the courtroom scenes, both of you. Like that is what brought the juxt of this movie to light and gave it more of a pedestal and made it worthwhile in a sense. But I don't have much else to say. I can't really expound upon what y'all said. But like I said, this is one that left a lasting mark on me from a young kid to this day and age, and it'll always stick with me. Some of it's a little hokey now, but I still think that
it's not as horrific as it was.
It's not even close. It's definitely not as horrific. It wasn't as scary. I didn't finish that movie. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I was like, all right, I'm at ease. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I slept in the dark.
Yeah, I didn't wake up. I didn't stay up till
At
3 a.m.
Yeah.
Did you use nightlight last night?
No, I
He
sleep-
always uses his nightlight. It's a little Flintstone nightlight.
No, I need it pitch black. I need my blackout curtains and door shut. But
I do want to, Andrew, I want you to take the floor on this one then. Let's briefly, because we're running out of time here, before we get to the final verdict, let's talk about Annalise Michelle
okay,
and the real case here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. You all might have more than me. I know that she was a young German woman in the 70s who, experienced psychosis and epileptic issues. Was on medication for years, and this was still modern times, but modern science and healthcare is not what it was. It's not back then. It's not what it is now. But she was on medication for years. After a while, her family wanted to try alternative methods, and they went to exorcisms, and there were like 67 exorcist rites that were administered.
She had 67 exorcisms. Yeah.
Yeah.
63 exorcisms in a year.
So, and I will say, like, you're right on. I mean, this movie is very similar to the same court case because the priests there were convicted of negligent homicide.
And they got
So were the parents.
12 months or 6 months or something
Yeah.
like that. It was like cut in half, I think.
So there wasn't a whole lot that they took liberties on. Obviously, it took place in Germany.
Yeah.
We played you the real tapes on this episode, so it's, to the Kyle's point, you can say whatever you want. You can come up with your own beliefs. You can read the court files on this case. This case was very popular in the media, but she was diagnosed with everything up front. This wasn't like a case like Emily Rose. They make it out like, oh, she may or may not be epileptic. No, this girl had psychosis and was epileptic. She died at 67 pounds, right?
66, 67, yeah.
Yeah, so she died of malnutrition. And pretty much that's about it. Like, there's not a whole lot else to that, but it did open the door for, like, religion versus science, just like this movie did. And that's where we're at right now. We're at the biggest scientific discovery of our time. Andrew, does this movie hold up?
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. A little bit cheapened compared to my original thoughts. I have watched this between when I first saw it and now, but I think it holds up. Yeah, there's some hokey parts, but at its core, the message and the discussion of whether or not the evil supernatural exists, I think, is a healthy debate. And as someone who is, I would say that I am a believer, that dark side, that evil aspect circumventing and coming into our lives, or the possibility of that is something that truly terrifies me. And, again, hokey parts of this movie, but the root of it is still good, and it still serves a noble purpose. So yeah, I think it holds up. It's not one that I want to go to watch to get a good scare, but it makes you think, and it definitely takes your mind to certain places, which again I think is healthy and necessary. So,
Kyle, does it hold up?
Yes. It's definitely a movie that's worth watching, if only for the scary notion of we don't know everything, we don't have answers to everything, and there are still some things out there that may or may not have a scientific explanation or not. It doesn't matter. It still happens, and you should have a healthy skepticism of this kind of, or not healthy skepticism, yes, but also a healthy respect, because there's just some things that you shouldn't do. And I think that this movie, not scary like we would normally call it. Definitely don't disagree on some of the CGI moments. I think they can be a little much, but that's not why you're watching this movie. That's why they had to put it in there so people would go see it. I'm sure back in 2005 we were like, oh wow, yeah. But nowadays it's just hokey.
Dated, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not, for me, it's not gonna lose a whole lot of points on that one. But it, like, of the binary choice, does it hold up or not? It absolutely holds up.
So I go back and forth. I felt like there was more there that they didn't give us. I also felt like I don't know if I really liked this movie a whole lot. So I came to this conclusion. If you're going into this movie for a horror movie, it does not hold up at all. Just a run-of-the-mill horror movie. I think a lot of the horror in it is outdated. It's early 2000s horror, the way it's shot, more or less. Not what we're not talking about theming. Talking about just the way it's shot and presented. There's no tension in those scenes. If you're going into it for a courtroom drama with some horror elements in it, it does hold up, in my opinion. It's not the worst horror I've seen. It's not like rolling your eyes, and some of it is just kind of dated for what they did at the time. Like we were talking about the CG, a lot of that. There's a lot of horror movies from the early 2000s that were good at the time that aren't going to be good now, just because they relied a little bit too much on that. But in general, I think they just missed there, and I think they could have done that part of it a lot better, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Horror in general, I think, is one of the more subjective. Like a comedy is a comedy. Action movie might be a drama, but it could be a rom-com, could be a drama. Who knows?
There's
but
so many subgenres of horror. Like you don't have that in any other genres of film.
It's really like, I think it makes it hard, which is good. It's because it gets, again, horror gets to more of like the moral issues in society and like the real questions, I think, more than comedy at times does. Definitely without, action in no way.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's an element of fear to everything you do, and having that element of fear, horror is facing your fears, and we all don't have the same fears. So, to your point, Kyle, it's very broad, and some people may find something horrific and others won't. Like I like, as much as like I do like paranormal and exorcist movies, they don't scare me at all.
I want to ask you all something, and this isn't necessarily the point of the movie, and you don't necessarily have to give me a yes or no answer, but do you all believe in the supernatural? Evil supernatural? Is that something that you think exists in this world?
Personally, yes.
Okay.
I believe that. I don't know how I believe it exists, but I do believe that there is an element of the supernatural that exists, yes.
Okay. Kyle?
Yes, but there was a long time where I did not. And only until I had an experience was I like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. There is something.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that experience sometime on this podcast if we haven't already. But yes, I don't think we know everything. And I certainly don't think that. I think another lazy argument is that there's nothing. I don't believe that there's like a cloud that we all live on in heaven with everything and every thought you've ever had and everybody's happy all the time. But there's something. And if goodness can stick around and memory can stick around, that's good. So can bad.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Like humans was there evil before we existed? Probably not. But there is now, because we have put that out into the world, and it's not going to go anywhere until we're not here. But like we brought original sin into the world, that whole moral like question, like if there is good, there has to be an evil.
Yeah.
And if good can perpetuate, so can evil. So I definitely think that there is something. I don't think anybody knows what it is. We're never going to, probably. But if you sit here and say, well, that's lazy. Yeah, I have had experiences that have changed my mind big time. I know Andrew's had stuff, and like,
and that's why I brought that up. So
yeah,
and you're gonna share your story sometime.
We're not gonna do that now, but I will say,
no, we're already long in the tooth on this episode.
No, I will say though that those experiences, I experienced that before I came to see this movie. So
yeah, I can imagine that. Like,
again,
driving a lot.
This was one of the first movies that kind of collected that and put it into media. So like I said, it's going to stick with me probably forever.
Yeah, and that's totally fair.
Yeah.
And all three of us have had experiences. You can actually listen to my experience on a Spooked episode.
You can.
It's a lot of fun, so go find that. Spooked. So before we get out of here, we're going to do some IMDb ratings here. Kyle, what would you give this movie?
I would give this movie a healthy 7.4. It is definitely worth watching. It's a little like dated. It does lose points for like having some bad some bad shots. Believable, good acting that helps carry it. Yes, but some scenes that probably don't need to be in there. And I think there was a bit of an identity crisis at some point with this movie. However, it was pretty good. I thought it made me think a lot, and any movie that makes me think a lot, it's gonna get a higher rating for me. Yeah,
I'm gonna give it, because I can't help myself, I'm gonna give it a 6.6.
How dare you?
I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, why?
Okay, I wanted to go last because I thought I was going to end up in between y'all. My rating, I thought I was going to be in between. I gave it a 6.4.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah. I think some of the...
I was going to say 6.5, but I was like 6.6 is too perfect for this movie.
I think one of the takeaways that I had from watching it last night was I was just disappointed that I wasn't scared at all. And
Yeah,
I think
either.
that bothered me. It was such a stark difference from when I was younger and when I watched it even 10, 15 years ago. And there were some of those horror elements that were just a little hokey.
They needed more time to breathe.
It was there.
More time in the oven.
And this movie, like I said, as I told you, it still means a lot to me. 6.4 is not a bad movie. I just think some of the horror elements could have been better. And
see, I thought the courtroom wouldn't carry it like it did for me, so that's why I went a little higher than usual. Because, like I said, going in as a courtroom movie, this is great.
Just wanted it to linger a little bit more.
Yeah.
But without a doubt,
enough.
it still holds up. And I'm pretty sure the IMDb rating was actually a 6.8 or a 6.7. I think it's 6.7.
Okay.
So we're right around that.
Right on it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the honors this week, Andrew?
We reached into your childhood nightmares. We pulled out the Exorcism of Emily Rose, decided that it did hold up, and that you should maybe give it a watch. Check out for yourself.
Thank you, Andrew. That was beautiful.
Oh, I tried.
Question for both of you, don't answer, but are you afraid of the dark? Because that is coming next week.
Kyle just answered.
Yeah, he answered.
Kick him off the show.
We're checking out the childhood classic TV show from Nickelodeon, Are You Afraid of the Dark? We picked one of the scariest episodes, The Tale of the Laughing Clown. We're going to dive fully into that next week. In the meantime, you can go to our Instagram, check us out, follow us there, follow us on Andrew's favorite TikTok. Go to our website, send us an email, let us know of anything that you would like to see us do in the near future. But until next time, we'll see you next Thursday for Are You Afraid of the Dark?